Hi, everybody. So it was at 3 o'clock, I'm sorry. So we're just walking around. Okay, so just to have a feel of the room, how many of you have been to Brazil? Please raise your hands. All right. And how many of you are service designers? Okay, a lot. How many of you work with startups? Okay, a few. And with corporates, like innovation area? Okay. And how many of you just walked in? Just they don't know what's going on? Nobody? Oh, anyway, okay. So this is me. I'm Clara. I'm head of corporate venture at Kyvo, and I'm actually Italian. So I've been living in Brazil like since 2012, but I'm actually from Milano. And so I saw Daniele this morning, and I was like, engaging because he was like talking like Italian, but he's from Switzerland. So I graduated at Politecnico di Milano in creative solution for complex problems. So after that, I went to study urbanism in Lisbon. So I've been living a little bit in Portugal, Italy, Portugal, and then Switzerland. And then I came to Brazil in 2012. I've been working with service design consultancy, and from 2014, I've been working with startups. So trying to build bridges between startups and corps. I teach strategic design, and I'm also into some social impacts projects. So always about complexity. Okay, so Kyvo, what's Kyvo? So Kyvo is a service design company. We are based in São Paulo. We also have a base in Portugal. And what we do is we deliver innovation and relevance to our clients. Our method is agnostic, so we work with startups, we work with multinationals, small businesses, big corporations, you name it, we have it. So as I was saying, Brazil ecosystem for startup is a little bit different. So we suffer from a specific ecosystem. What we have is if we compare our ecosystem to a more developed one, like Silicon Valley's, for instance, is that we have a one-legged ecosystem instead of a six-legged ecosystem. What is that? So developed entrepreneurial ecosystem in Silicon Valley and the Brazilian entrepreneurial ecosystem. Brazil is a really continental country. There are a lot of towns, a lot of cities. Some of them are more developed than the others, but I'm talking about mostly São Paulo, Recife, maybe Belo Horizonte, if you know them. So the three most important legs for a developed entrepreneurial ecosystem are government support, support from academic institutions, and collaboration with private sector. Thing is, in Brazil, we are evolving, but we're not just there yet, because we do have some government support, mostly, for example, in Brasília or in Recife or Belo Horizonte. But we don't have any grants for startups. We don't have any specific law for startups. Supportive academic institution, we do have a little bit, but it's not like Stanford or UCI Berkeley with mentors and professors that are really active in the ecosystem. And what we do really have is a collaboration with the private sector. So the other three legs, really important, are abundant capital, risk-taking culture, and, of course, community and give back. So Brazil, again. We do have abundant capital. Thing is, investors in Brazil are just not really interested in risk investment, if you will. So what they do, they invest much more in real estate, in bank products, no risk-taking culture, and of course, the community. We are growing the community, but still not there. So what we experience at Kyvo is that the best way to improve Brazil's ecosystem is through the private sector, and we do that with service design. So we know that by using service design, we can really build bridges between startups and corps. And what I really want to do today is to talk a little bit about this with you, and I really want you to take this part and all of these learnings and to bring it home, maybe mold it, maybe call us and say, it's not working in my country, but what I want to do is to understand a little bit more about your ecosystem and to understand how it could work with service design. So, let's begin with startups. So Brazil, we have some pros and cons. I'm going to start with the pros. we know that startups, and we see that startups enter acceleration programs and incubation programs. And those programs are really immersive. They can last like up to 4 months, really important. Startup find people to talk about branding, growth hacking, branding again, could be development for product development. There's a lot of mentors over there. They also meet with investors and funds, of course, to fundraise. And of course, they contact with corps to be hired as suppliers. And that's cool. Thing is, on the cons, to enter such programs, they lose part of their equity. It's up to 10%. So if you're a startup and you want to take part in one of these programs, you already know you're going to lose part of your equity. What we know from funds is that equity reduction and a massive cap, it's really bad for the startup. It's so bad that actually, if your startup is going for a Series A or a Series B, investors are going to go away. So this is really a problem for Brazil, because also sales pipeline is really too long. From the first contact with a corp, for example, to the moment they close a deal, it could be 16 months. So your startup could actually die. So what we're saying them is that they should have a more holistic approach, because they need to understand better the market and find other opportunities. We call this scenario acceleration 1.0. And what we did is to look at it through service design lenses and to understand a little bit how to change it using the corps. So, corps. I'm going to show you some images. You probably already know. People from corps, please don't be upset. It's just a joke. Corps. This big tanker trying to go, don't have any agility, try to turn around, but it can. Dinosaurs. Again, people from corps is just a joke. But the thing is, I also found, it was this week, this is Stefan the Corporex. I found it like last week. I was in San Francisco with some startups, and I found this, I find it really cute, so it's eating all this meat. And of course, corps depicted as dinosaurs and startups as unicorn. You're just a make-believe, yes, but you're extinct. So, we know that corps want to do open innovation, but actually they struggle, right? They struggle because they focus mostly on the process and result instead of talking with the market. They don't have a shared the shared DNA of startup, so they try to have it, but the employee, they just don't have it. They have a lot of expectation, but they don't have a hands-on approach. And of course, low communication, traditional silos, you know this better than me. And they have issues hiring startups. Issues are compliance, legal, administration, you name it, they have it. The thing is, the market is all around. Market means startups, opportunity, academic institution, research institution, but there's no connection. But we do know, because they told us that they want to do open innovation. They want to back startups and companies because they want to have more products, right? Entering a new market. They want to sell these services, so they want to know about them. Of course, they want to provide more efficiency to their own industries. This is really common, actually. And some of them, they do that for branding. That means they want to project a more innovative image of my company, so I want to do that because of that. Okay, other reasons that are not really shared. So what we want to do is to create those connections, and we want to create this image, actually. Does anybody know already seen this picture in the past? No one? Okay, so this is an article, a really famous one from 500 Startups. 500 Startups is a global acceleration program, and they wrote this huge article, how to make some bridges with startups and corporations. And they have a lot of new tools, but the thing is, we understood that this is just not, they're not just getting there. It doesn't mean that if you have any tool, you go there and you can say, okay, now I'm working with a startup. You have to create a new mindset. And that's the reason why we created another kind of acceleration that is not like acceleration 1.0. It's not like corporate acceleration, but it's what we call Acceleration 2.0, and it starts from 0 equity programs, and of course has a design-driven approach. So, 0 equity programs. We already said it, founders must have 80% of their own equity, otherwise it's going to be really a problem if you go fundraising in some moment. So this is really important because if we have a 0 equity programs, we are going to receive much more startup interested, and we're not messing with the market. So we're just increasing capital in the market. Investors are not going to be scared. They're going to be close to this kind of program acceleration. And of course, startups are willing to participate. And this is also good for the corporation because if more startups and more scale-ups, which are more mature startups thinking about growing, are going to stay there, are going to participate in the acceleration, this is going to be great also for the corps because it's going to increase participation of execs and managers. They're going to believe more, you know? Design-driven approach. What we did was to create some new services, as I said, and starting from the corps, we create, well, co-creation is a well-known word, but what we did is to engineer some specific sessions with corps, because we wanted to understand which were the target they were aiming to achieve for open innovation. So what do you want to do? Why are you running an acceleration program? Is that because you want to be more innovative? Is that because you want to enter new markets? Is that because you want to create a new product? And of course, the most important thing here is to listen to the people. So what we did is to understand which stakeholder was really interested, and we want this stakeholder to stay inside the program. The second part is the mentorship. And we actually invented the mentorship because the execs and managers were not taking part of acceleration. So it was around 2017, and we understood we had to do something about it. So we created a training program because we understood, of course, that innovation was starting from a cultural change. And we wanted the mentors to really understand the language from a startup, the world from a startup, how to work with startup. So we created 4 workshops in which they start to behave like mentors. They really start to work as a startup. We also found a game about that, and they were observing the way startup works. So in the last 2 years, we trained something like 150 execs. So it's a lot. And we had, with 2 programs, something like 400 mentorship sessions among mentors from execs and managers and startups. It's a huge number. Then the Hightouch approach. This is for, of course, co-creating solutions. So we want to share responsibilities between corps and startups, and for that we need startups and we need managers to understand each other. So we engineered some design sprints in order to leverage more communication, more experiences, and soft skills, of course, and less silos, less low communication. So going through the bridge in direction of the startup, what we did is to also understand which level of maturity the startup had when they were subscribing in our program. So this is a photo from a demo day at Visa, that is one of our clients. And you can see on that board 2 little words, that is start and growth. So start and growth are 2 different tracks. What we did is to leverage different approaches to startups according to the level of maturity they had in the same program. After that, we designed a new bootcamp, if you will, and this bootcamp is starting with the business strategy. So this is the first part of the bootcamp. It's like 1 week long, and what we do is try to understand how many strategies a startup could have when it enters an acceleration program. If you know a little bit about Lean Startup method, that is great. You should know that a startup is all about finding the solution for a specific problem in the market. But to go there, a startup just encounters a lot of difficulties, a lot of problems, and it's resolving all of this problem along the way. So actually, startups has a lot to give in terms of new strategies, also to bring them together with the corporation. So we want them to write them all, and sometimes we have something like this. So from 35 startups, something like 140 strategies in 1 week. That means 4 new strategy for startup, and that means a lot of possibility to be prioritized with the corporation. After that, we designed what we call design research, in which we try to leverage a more service design approach for startup. Because in lean startup, we do have the phase of product design, but they don't focus on each stakeholder. They just do it really individually and not really holistically. So what we wanted is to understand really the expectation and the pains of everybody. And the field, in this case, includes corps. So we want startups to interview and to stay and to talk with executives and managers because we want them to understand the whole problem. So these are some startups working. So at the beginning, they all scared up, like, I don't want to do research, I don't know about that, I don't want to get out of the building. But actually, this is a micro-loan startup called Zippy from Brazil. And they're working and indexing the information about the stakeholders, the clients that they had. So this is another startup, like a big data solution startup, working defining personas. So it was the first time ever they were, designing personas. What's personas? For us, it's really common, but for them, it's not. And after that, it's prototyping. So you maybe, if you know Lean Startup, you maybe have seen already this build, test, and validate sentence. What Lean Startup do, startups that use Lean Startup methodology, they build, they test, and validate in the market, and then they go to the corp and try to sell it. What we do is to build, test, and validate the product within the corporation. So it's just faster and more assertive. So this is a startup using Service Blueprint for new products. That's amazing. Also because they work with blockchain. So in the first week, nobody understood what they were doing, actually. And this is another one, Bitcoin, so cryptocurrencies, testing with managers from Visa. And this is a case I'm going to speak a little bit about. Visa, of course, one of our clients, and Blue 365, that is a startup based in São Paulo. It's not really a startup because it has been around like 7 years. It's much more of a scale-up, but they do something really important for the market. What Blue does is to help people that are indebted. So what you don't know is that in Brazil, 40% of the population is indebted, so has debt. 39% don't have bank accounts. So huge problem, huge solutions could change society. What Blue does is to get in touch with indebted people with a more, human contact. And they do that because of behavioral science and big data analysis. They get in touch with the people that are indebted because they find them through big data and social media, social networks. And they talk with them like in a very human way, not like the bank that is calling, you owe me money. It's really different. So they get their trust and they help them to design a roadmap to pay back their debt. And they do that because of educational training. So they entered the Visa program because they said, look, we have this product and we want to sell this product because we want to use your contact to do that. But what happened in the business strategy bootcamp was that in the strategy they understood that they could add new services for the user. They were successful in paying back their debt. Actually, their business model is based on success fee, and they're really good at it. So they entered the design research phase, and then they saw the new findings, so that user wanted really to access financial product. So these services, these new services that were sold in their platform could be financial services. And then the prototyping phase, then they saw that they could actually sell those financial products on their platform. but the user were going to buy those projects in their platform? Was it going to be complicated or confusing for them? That was the first question. And the second question was Blue going to design those financial products, like really design those financial? So from Visa side, what we did in the co-creation was to understand why they were running an acceleration program. So we entered the co-creation session to understand a little bit more, and what we understood that they wanted to differentiate their portfolio, and to offer new services for their client. So Visa's clients are banks, are retail, are method payments. So they wanted to differentiate their portfolio. In the mentorship part, execs and managers, they learned about startups and they became mentors, so they could take part of the program. And after that, in the Hightouch part, they understood how to develop strategies into projects within the startup. So what they do with Blue, in this case, they articulated meetings with major Brazilian banks so that Blue could actually have access to financial products and to sell these financial products in their platform. That was really huge for Blue because actually it created a big partnership between Visa, Blue, and the banks, reduced time to market. Can you imagine how much time it would have taken if it was Blue to design the financial product? And of course, made possible more access to bank for the 39% of the people that don't have access to bank. Because if you're in that people, you are a persona non grata for banks, So this is Natalia, head of marketing at Blue, presenting this solution, Conta Blue, at the demo day at Visa last year, and they're just doing great. So after 7 programs, 30 clients and 70 startups, accelerated more or less, well, we understood that we have 2 really important takeaways we're still working at. One is startup still needs to evolve in research and have a more holistic approach. Although we're teaching them to do that, it's really complicated to them to understand how important it is to go holistic in the market, especially in Brazil, of course. And then we're trying this right now in a program that we're running in Brazil. Maybe by adding IT resources, we could accelerate the deployment of projects. So we are not an IT company, so we don't have any developers for the startups, but we're trying this with a client of ours that is working right now in a program, and they added IT resources, and we're testing how it's going to understand if we maybe iterate it in our programs. So what we understood in conclusion is that service design, it is the missing framework to build bridges between corps and startups. The Acceleration 2.0, it's offering a win-win solution. And if you look at, for example, the Visa side, we have a win-win-win solution because also the banks were winning in a way. Of course, co-created solution are more realistic. Collaboration in a one-legged ecosystem does just increase sustainability. It's more assertive, it's faster, doesn't scare investors away, it's much more interesting. And design-driven process is, of course, more assertive and faster because it's involving everybody since the beginning. So, either if you are a puppy T-Rex from a corpse, and a crazy unicorn, what we want to do is to hear from you and to build better ecosystem together. Because we know there are a lot of ecosystems around the world that are just one-legged or two-legged or three-legged, and we can really use service design to make them better. So this is a call to action. This is my email. If you want to talk about this, and if you want to discuss and to create better ecosystem, please write me or send an email, whatever. I'd be really glad to hear from you. Thanks.